يعطيك العافية دكتورة.
أهلا أحمد، كيفك دكتور؟ شو الأخبار؟
الحمد لله، الله يعطيك العافية. سعد لي. الله يعطيك العافية، سعد لي يومك دكتورة. إن شاء الله. الله يخليك. شكرا أول شيء على حضورك، ما قصرتي. راح إن شاء الله نبدأ بالضبط على الوقت. I will introduce you وإن شاء الله راح نبدأ في الوقت.
تمام perfect.
يعطيك العافية. كيف الأحوال في الإمارات؟
الحمد لله بخير، كل شيء بخير الحمد لله، كل شيء. كوفيد هاي وبلش إن شاء الله نخلص من كوفيد وإن شاء الله everything will be fine.
إن شاء الله الله يعطيك العافية. خلاص إن شاء الله دقيقة وراح نبدأ.
تمام.
Hello everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar. Today we have a new guest in our ITAR family. Before we start to introduce our guest, I want to welcoming everyone for our presentation or our webinar today. I want to thank everyone who is attending here also in YouTube. This webinar will be recorded in YouTube. Our guest speaker today is Dr. Anoud Beni Hani, is an assistant professor, academic director of the Next Gen Center. at the College of Technological Innovation and Chair of Research Ethics Committee at Zayed University. Dr. Benihani received her doctorate of engineering in computer science and information technology system from Loughborough University in UK, where she did industrial-based PhD. She also holds a master in multimedia and internet computing and interested in that field. Prior to working at Zayed University, she worked as an ERP developer in a private company in United Kingdom as a part of her engineering research, and she was a lecturer in Jordan University of Science and Technology, JUST. Dr. Benihani areas of research include detecting emotions and fake news on social media in Arabic and in English, ERP, implementations, knowledge management in EMS, cloud computing, blockchain, and IP, along with emerging technology. Thank you, Dr. Anoud, for joining us today. Before you start, I want to ask all the attendees here on Zoom and in the YouTube, if you have any question, you have to type to ask Dr. Anoud your question. All your questions will be after her presentation, and you can raise your hand for, to ask her, or you can type your question in Q&A below the screen. Again, thank you, Dr. Anoud, for accepting my invitation, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmad, for the introduction, and for ITAR Group also for this opportunity. If I may share my screen, please, I'm gonna start talking about my research for myself and my group. So as Dr. Ahmad mentioned, my name is Dr. Anoud Benihani. Let me just put this full screen. My name is Dr. Anoud Benihani. I'm an assistant professor at Zayed University. I'm also the director of the Next Generation Center, chair of the Research Ethics Committee here at the Dubai campus. Now, it's my pleasure to share with you today our latest research work addressing some current challenges related to information defamation and its potential impacts amid the COVID-19 situation in UAE and also globally. Now, data, as we all know, is an extremely valuable resource as it provides insights that can lead to costs and even life savings. In crises such as COVID-19, as we all have seen in the pandemic and the resulting global lockdown, social media became a very rich source of data for individuals, businesses, government, and so on. At the same time, social media can also be a source of information defamation, which refers statements about a person or entity that harms their reputation and a more insidious problem, which is fake news. I think we've all been in that area where we've seen whether on all of these applications, these messages that was talking about what's happening with COVID-19, what's happening with the vaccination, what's happening all around the world. And these news became, unfortunately, a source for people, for information to circulate around, which again raised a lot of panic, raised a lot of issues, and this led to more problems. Fake news in general, as we all knew, or we all know, is untrue information that is presented as factual news. This toxic byproducts of social and digital media can be hard to detect and thus can mislead public opinions and misdirect behaviors. Now, the ubiquity and complexity of fake news with scores of bots and human producing and disseminating fake news content in a near constant stream requires a rapid, accurate, and automated solution. This is particularly challenging to computer-based fake news detection systems, which must be trained to understand and analyze languages and its uses to detect what is likely fake from what is likely real. We've seen nowadays on Twitter, on WhatsApp, on Facebook, on Instagram, every single social media platform had a huge amount related to COVID-19. It's like whoever puts a hashtag with COVID-19, you will see the news all over these social platforms. Now, in the context of COVID-19, fake news can be particularly dangerous. Now, recently, research published in the American Journal of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene reported that some 800 people died from drinking highly concentrated alcohol following fake news reports that this would disinfect their bodies from COVID-19. Now, we've all seen that maybe some influencer or some public leader or something like that who will come and is like, if you do that, if you drink highly concentrated alcohol, then you will not get COVID-19. Such news, such fake news is very dangerous. Now, another 5,900 required hospitalization from such news, and around 60 became blind as a result of the incorrect COVID-19 treatment resulting from fake news that was available on social media. Now, the effects of fake news. Now, in the context of COVID-19, fake news can be particularly dangerous. Research recently, as I said, published mentioned all of these cases that happen. There are also impacts like financial impacts, for example. If I like that blogger, for example, and her posts push me to buy her product, will I spend $60 a month for an effective product? Will this product interact with other medication I take? If I eat nothing but bananas for 12 days, obviously this can affect my health. It's far from a balanced diet. It also can put fear in the people. Will I stop going out because of dangerous clowns, for example, in the town? Or will I have insomnia? Will my quality of life decrease? We're talking about fake news in general. Also, false rumors that target specific individuals can have major consequences. These individuals might be harassed on social media and targeted by insults and threats that sometimes have real life impacts, especially we're talking about mental health, and today is the mental health day, as we have seen with what happened in India and Mexico. You must never rely only on non-validated information circulating on social media to decide that a person is guilty or not. Now, the detection of fake news on social media has become a very active research area recently. Several approaches and techniques that have been proposed and implemented to address the challenge across diverse technology domains, such as natural language processing and also machine learning. Now, it's concerned with the development of new methodologies and solutions for data and social network analysis, leveraging technologies and applying them to real case scenarios. One of these scenarios will be related to COVID-19, which is the case today. For example, studying the socio-economic impact of COVID-19 in UAE and globally, using artificial intelligence techniques for analysis of related data sets for crucial insights. Now, it's our hypothesis that in addition to other data sources, social networks become an important source of invaluable data. We can't just always say that whatever is social media will always have harmful impact, which, if exploited correctly, can result in multidimensional impact for the 4 elements in here in UAE, let's say, for the national priorities, as highlighted in one of the visions in UAE, like the UAE competitive knowledge economy, cybersecurity, safety of the public, and the cohesion of the society. Now, by enhancing our ability to identify and track fake news, we can enhance the cybersecurity and safety by neutralizing fake news as a weapon for hackers or interest groups and protecting the public from harmful news. Reducing the potential for social disruption by neutralizing fake news will support the cohesion of society and reduce also the economic disruption, while fake news detection and tracking tools we are developing can be leveraged to support further research as part of the high-tech industry. Now, our research looks to use innovative technologies to extract, aggregate, process data from diverse data silos to determine the data veracity, or in simple terms, if news is real or fake. Now, the project primarily leverage semantic technologies and incorporate artificial intelligence, AI, microservices, and cloud computing. And this is basically what we are focusing on. Now, semantic technologies are used to make data understandable to machines by categorizing and processing data and identifying relationships and links within this data set. Now, the semantic technologies our project use include Web Ontology Language, or OWL, Resource Description Framework, or RDF, Sparkle Protocol and RDF Query Language, or what is it called, Sparkle, and Semantic Graph databases. Now, the mainstay is semantic annotation, annotating data with contextual meaning for machines and subsequently humans. This facilitates the development of knowledge graphs with semantic graph database such as GraphDP, Neo4j, and Virtuoso, which I'm going to talk about in details. Now, if I go to the GraphDP, it's an enterprise-ready semantic graph database compliant with W3C standards. Semantic graphic database, also called RDF, provide the core infrastructure for solutions where modeling agility, data integration, and also, let's say, relationship exploration and cross-enterprise data publishing and consumption are important. If I'm going to look at the Neo4j, it's also a graph database platform powering mission-critical enterprise application like AI, fraud detection, and recommendation. We also have the Virtuoso universal server. I'm going a little bit more in depth now, where it's a modern platform built on existing open standards that harnesses the power of hyperlinks for breaking down the data silos. Now, these embed both user and enterprise ability. For example, if I use the Virtuoso SQL Sparkle powers many enterprise with knowledge graph, which is what we are working on in our research. And such initiatives, just as it does with the DPpedia and the majority of nodes in the linked open data cloud, the world's largest publicly accessible knowledge graph. Now, just as technology has been responsible for generating a massive and unprecedented amount of data via several types of devices, or some of them are like the wearable and mobile phones, it's used in the extraction, aggregation, fusion, and processing of relevant data across diverse heterogeneous data silos has become even more pertinent. Now, the project focuses on this technology as well as other technologies such as AI, as we said, and so on. The mainstay is semantic annotation, annotating that data with contextual meaning for machines and subsequently human. Now, one of the deliverables is an OWL-based ontology representing social content and context as well for data on social media. So we're focusing on these two, content and context. This is utilized for semantic modeling of data towards data analytics, inferencing, and reasoning. The ontology provides the main concepts and properties required to describe the information that contextualize the spread of fake news on social media. Now, it will enable also the ontologies for modeling social network environments, which we'll talk about also, which was tailored representing social media events. Hence, it introduced a process-oriented approach. Now, the ontology statistics are as follow from these classes in here. We're looking at a number of classes of, for example, 67, number of objects of 38, number of data type properties 72, number of edges, which is like 202, and so on, for this ontology, for the content and the context modeling. Now, part of what we're doing is we're developing the ontology-based knowledge graphs towards semantic data. Now, for prediction, description, and perspection of our of analytics of our data. Now, knowledge graphs, which we produce here in our project, contains description of entities which interlink one another, with description having a formal structure that can be processed efficiently and unambiguously. And where there is contribution of one entity description to another, thereby coming up with a network in which each entity stands for part of description of the entity related to it. Now, basically, some other deliverables that we worked on, we had two softwares that came out. One is ConeKG, which is related to the COVID knowledge graph, and one is FinKG, which is related to the fake news detection in general on knowledge graph. Now, in the CONKG, we looked at the COVID-19 knowledge graph, which contains over 6 million COVID-19 related news articles from diverse publishers and authors. Now, with over 100 million statements in the Semantic graph database, providing an infrastructure for the social data and analytics relating to the COVID-19 pandemic, useful analytics resources for researchers, data scientists, government organization, and so on. This will provide us a multidimensional beneficial impact for the researchers, and I'm going to talk about it in a minute. Now, we also have the FinKG. Now, with the FinKG, we looked at the fake news detection knowledge graph containing thousands of classified tweets as either fake or real. Now, with over 70 million also statements in the Semantic graph database, there was a useful for a percentage-based classification of other tweets as either fake or real. More percentage classification leads to a higher level of accuracy for detecting fake tweets on social media. Now, when you look at it, we in general, our project looks at fake news and looks at detecting emotions. When we started at detecting emotions on social media. We started it in English, then we started looking at it in Arabic. Then we took it to the next level, which is about detecting fake news on social media. And we decided it's not, because of the timing also where our project started, we looked at it in terms of the COVID and the amount of fake news and huge data that we managed to look at. We're talking about millions of semantic graph data sets. Now, when it comes to the FinKG, it can provide multidimensional beneficial impacts for researchers, data scientists, and organizations, such as identification of fake news, which is, again, we're talking about millions of tweets every day, pattern recognition for fake news propagation, models toward prevention of their spread. Sorry. We also looked about the generation of insight into fake news enablers and tackling them. And we also looked at the analytics towards forecasting, reasoning, establishing policies and general decision-making towards curbing societal vices resulting from fake news propagation. Again, as I said, the fake news is not just something that on Twitter we'll look at it and like we're going to say fake or real. This will also have a huge impact on the society, and that's what we're actually trying to work. We work with government, we work with for example, ministries like Ministry of Health, and I'm going to talk about the future project that we're working on now. It's all about tackling such fake news and what we're going to do with the data that comes out with it. And out of this, for example, FinKG, now we have a software that is available on GraphDP that we work on, and where you can search for RDF resources and you can look at whether this news is fake or real. Now, COVID-19, the significant benefit and application areas based on predictive analysis, such as better engagement with the public and their sentiment or opinion, improving the private-public relationship and access to vital data, leveraging artificial intelligence solutions such as personal assistant, chatbots, and this is something we all needed at this time, especially at COVID time. We all needed to look at the news and really know whether this is fake or real. I think with the platforms we were using, it was really scary at some point. There was a lot of fear from going into like at certain point, people were looking at COVID, like if you get COVID, then the results will definitely be, unfortunately, bad. People will be hospitalized and so on, which was not true all the time. Like they had to have certain cases, certain health problems and so on to get it to that point. Now, it also were able to monitor the multiple metrics for fostering improved public health and foster planning, management, and optimization of data sources. And this is one of the projects that we're currently working on, detecting fake news related to the vaccine, which we have been doing for over a year now, and also working with the Ministry of Health at detecting fake news in general that is related to every single health problem available, and how we can help the public knowing the true information and so on. Now, a good example of the FinKG example application Implementation of the semantic news search service using an Elasticsearch server as a service on an Apanto, for example, instance in Amazon AWS, and that's what we were working on. The service provides an interface for semantic free text search. In addition to providing results, it provides links to relevant entities in the news article itself using Displacy, a named entity recognition library for REST services. So whenever we do any of these searches, like for example, related to ConKG, it will display also the rights where this information came from, and this will be like a free text search. It also constitutes an integration hub for data of different heterogeneous sources where the new data is linked to the different entities of knowledge graph, providing different ways to explore the data. It also utilizes an Elasticsearch document store and a lightweight triple store, which is the triple pattern fragments. It also comprises of Sparkle endpoint for advanced use to carry out the complex queries and data analytics, exporting results and visualization in several formats. Now, as you can see here, okay, this will, we were, for example, looking at some of the Reuters news. It will highlight these searches, it will highlight these words, it will give you where these information came from and so on, and what entities that information contains. Now, I think I'm running a little fast, but I'm going to talk about the conclusion and future direction. And I'm going to tell you after that a little bit about a project that we already started. Now, the potential impact for the general public, professionals, and government agencies include detection of fake news and data on social media. And again, when we're talking about fake news, we're also, for example, talking about products. So I know at this point our focus was COVID-19 and vaccine, but in the future, some of the things that we can also work on, if a product comes out, for example, a phone, a software, even a car or something like that, we can detect fake news on social media and make sure to inhibit that spread and propagation of that fake news on the web. Analytical infrastructure for generating insights, forecasting, defining policies, governmental and social, as well as general decision making. So this can also help with the security of the societies and the countries and so on. Now, the infrastructure for public use towards knowledge discovery as well, and acquisition for experts used toward scholarly research, for curbing the fake news menace and addressing other data-inspired negative social vices. And this is also some of the potential impacts that we're looking at. Now, the future direction. Now, semantic AI-based research into advances uses both end user and expert for timely and personalized feedback, recommendations, suggestions toward making decisions and taking actions based on data acquired on social media and the web at large. Now, it also uses use of complex machine learning algorithms such as artificial neural network for advanced text processing and analytics prior to and after data transformation at RDF formats. This is basically our research. Now, I'm going to tell you about what we're currently doing. We have a cluster and that we just obtained. I have a fund currently of around 500,000 dirhams. Basically, it's about responding to the COVID-19 public health impact in UAE. We're talking about an intelligent data fusion model and predictive analysis for proactive and effective response, of course, leveraging semantic technologies and artificial intelligence. What we want to do is, God forbid, if any other pandemic happens or any other health issue or problems, we want to be able to respond effectively. I know most of the like, let's say, countries, advanced countries did effectively respond to the COVID-19 impact, but others that they really responded really late, and this resulted in a lot of deaths and a lot of health issues and something. And I was reading a research the other day. They said the COVID-19 impact, and because of the delay in forecasting and responding to what happened, will continue affecting people for the next 7 years. So it's very important that we work on research that will help predict and analyze an effective response to pandemics such as the COVID-19. We endeavor to design and develop a public health related knowledge graph for post-COVID-19 impact and experimented with deep learning methods on this knowledge graph for predictive analytics. Now, this search is a continuation from the previous one, but we will also be dealing with multidimensional data fusion, which adds to the complexity of knowledge graph and deep learning solutions. Now, this is mainly our research. I'm just gonna tell you an update. Now, this work, as I said, it's a continuation. We have been trying several approaches to address the challenges of the implementation. And this research focuses, as I said, on exploring and developing native semantic technology solutions for the discourse space. And the initial result of a taxonomy classifying socially contextual feature for a news article and then funded work. Now, the latest update, as I said, is what we're working on the health impact. And we're trying to make this deep graph library for knowledge graph embeddings. And this will basically help with predicting, having a predictive analytical task for knowledge graph and for data related to COVID-19, the vaccine, and other health issues. That's it for me. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Victoria. Wow.
Sorry,
wow.
I finished I finished a little early.
And you talk so fast as well. How is everything? Everything, it was awesome, actually. And I have a couple of questions, Dr. Anoud. I noticed you talk about the tweets and this stuff and how you collect those tweets. Did you use a specific program, for example, to collect a bad and good news, which you call it fake news, let's say? So fake news, maybe it will be a good news or bad news as well, right? So, yes. So did you use, how you collect those news?
So we definitely collect them through Twitter, but we were looking basically at some of the hashtags. So we were looking at, for example, our hashtag COVID-19, and we were able to, now you can definitely you can buy this data from Twitter, but we were able to collect all of this hashtag, let's say filter it, like be able to filter this data and run it through the system. Now what we're trying to figure out is how to automatically do that without having to download this data, and that's something we're working on now in our product, because again we have the softwares, we have the where you can basically download that huge data set of millions of tweets and we run it through our program. But what we're trying to do is to have that embedded in Twitter at some point, or like in any a social platform and so on.
So this is actually my question. Is it so? Did you collect it manually?
No, there's like, you have a software, and I can share that later with you. You have a software, you can actually get a huge amount of data to download it from Twitter and so on, and you can purchase that data as well.
All right, and also if you can provide us with this software or the program so we can use it. Also, how you analyze the fake news. So what is your measurement of fake news? Did you measure it as, for example, male and females, for example, in countries, or just you specific talked about UAE? If you get my idea, is it bad and bad and good news, or just a fake news? How you said, for example, this is a fake news?
So what we did, Dr. Ahmed, is basically we looked at for example, we looked at the semantic technology, and what we have done is basically built, let's say, a database. So we built a huge database using, for example, RDF and Sparkle protocol, query languages, and so on. What we did is build that through all of these different softwares, and we had a library. This library was compared to what we have been hearing, for example, from the what is it called, the official resources. Okay, and we made that comparison over the based ontology social content and context for data on social media. So, and I have a couple of softwares links that I can, it's an open software where we created the ConKG and the fake KG, the FANG KG, which is again the knowledge graphs. So we looked at it, we classified the tweet, and we compared it to the official news that we have been receiving from the government. And this is what we have in terms of classifying the level of accuracy of that data and detecting whether fake or not fake and so on. The same thing when we did before also with the emotions. What we've done is build a library of emotions as well. So basically, and the problem with the other project, which was the emotion one, is we try to do it in Arabic. And you can imagine, especially, and this is also related to that, to the fake news, you can imagine that the huge amount of every single emotions or every single, let's say, keyword we had in terms of fake news or like news that raises a flag. And we had to do it in the different also Arabic dialects. So we had to do it, for example, in the Emirati Arabic, in the Kuwaiti Arabic, in the Jordanian Arabic, and because every single word has multiple of them. And we had to do it in Arabis, we had to do it in emojis, we had to do it in so many different ones to help us understand and analyze what is fake from what's likely true. It is still a progressing project, I must say, and that's why we're having more funds because it's raising a lot of interest from the government and from the different places and so on.
But this is actually my first time that I hear someone did a research and they use the emoji as, you know, in analyzing the research or your project.
Because again we're looking at what people put on Twitter, on Facebook, on all of these different platforms, and we all like express our emotions with sometimes emojis, and we also looking at that part because it actually can tell us whether someone is angry, whether someone is happy, whether someone, because this is again related to cybersecurity, because when you're talking about there was this big project that we were working on before, is like telling how the people feel about a certain news. Okay, because again, that will result or make an effect on the society as well. So we would like to know how people feel about, for example, a product or a governmental decision, or for example, an incident that happened, raising taxes, lowering taxes, things like this. And some people just express with their emojis. So we would like to also have that count in our social media detecting news, let's say in general, and then again, fake news or emotions and something like this.
So, Dr. Anoud, when you search for the fake news, you search for one news, which is the COVID-19, right? For this research, or
for
how
this,
many news?
For this particular project, we had like over 100 million statements that we entered into our semantic graph database related to COVID-19. So we were basically looking at everything that had to do hashtag with the COVID-19.
So now we want also, I have two questions I already asked you, but if you please provide us with the database that you use other than Twitter, or maybe you just use Twitter. And why Twitter? Why didn't you use Instagram, for example? Why didn't you use Facebook, let's say? Why you are specified, or let's say just use a Twitter program? What is the special of a Twitter program?
Well, to be honest, it's easier at this point, and because most of the let's say well-known people, or for example governmental entities, use that platform as they tweet about official data and so on, and that's where we wanted to compare it. Now the next step will be other social media platforms, but we wanted to start at the point where we have the text, because it's all about text. Now with other social media platforms, people can put pictures and so on, and that needs a huge amount of different ways of analyzing it. With Twitter, it's all about what people write as a text, and that's what we're working on. We're working on a very rich source of textual data. So that's why, and that's where we're looking about the content and the context. Now, definitely that's another field that we need to tackle, because we know a lot nowadays, most of these influencers or people get affected by what people post on Instagram, for example, or on Facebook, as you said, and so on. But at this stage of our project, we're working mainly on Twitter. because of the, again, text data.
Dr. Anoud, what about the famous people? Celebrities, actors, singers, and those. Nowadays they affect our society. Maybe they will, say a fake news, and many people, they will affected by their speech, or what they are saying. So did you do something about it in your project?
So again, Dr. Ahmed, we're looking at this in different aspects. I know what we've been seeing with these influencers, or for example, as you said, famous people. Someone would say, "Oh, I use this product to lose weight," and we've heard about a lot of, unfortunately, little girls who would believe them and use it. And unfortunately, we've seen people in hospitals, or like some death cases and so on. This is something definitely is very alarming now with social media. Now, again, that's a topic we are trying to tackle on. We're looking at it. We're working even with officials, and then we have a huge team that wants to work on this. But again, one thing I always end my talks with, and people have to check the official resources before they actually use it, because at the end of the day, and they have to check about what they share. So Dr. Ahmed, nowadays, what we have learned, and we've taught our kids nowadays, and COVID times, in the schools, in the nurseries, sharing is no longer caring. Okay, now sharing these news also is the same. So if you saw something, you sharing it is no longer a case where you actually care about the people and so on, unless you actually check it with officials. You like a medication that influencer uses, check with your doctor. If it's something, for example, where they would mention a product, or they would mention going somewhere, or they would make also these adventurous things and so on, people have to check. We have to check for the sake of our children, for the sake of the society, for the sake of the safety as well, and so on. And the same related to our fake news detection. And we're looking at Twitter at the moment, but definitely one of the future projects we want to do is looking at the different accounts where, for example, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok now, the TikTok virals that's happening as well. Some of them are not even safe. That's another topic that we really need to look at in depth, and researchers need to take that in mind. But also we always say we urge the society to check what is fake from not fake, and that's one important thing.
Let's say, as you said, Twitter is the most used of important people, let's say, from or other than the other program or softwares. So
it's not just this. Like I know Instagram is definitely trending, and it's one of the most used. But at this point, what our capabilities look at the analytics in terms of text, and Twitter for us is the most, let's say, it's a good start for us, where where it has extremely valuable resources. We've seen a few days back when there was a crash over Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp and so on. Yeah. Twitter came to the lead, and Twitter in 1 hour had more than 140 tweets in one post. So that was for us, for example, just a huge amount of data where we can actually run it into our, and we looked at these fake news. A lot of people were saying a lot of fake news about what happened with Facebook, and we've seen that. Like, I think that was a very good source for us to test it and so on. And still, by the way, under test, I'm looking forward to see the results by end of this week, if we have something to see what was fake in terms of what happened with Facebook and let's say Instagram and WhatsApp, and what was actually real, which was a very simple case. But yeah, this is definitely something we're looking at.
Interesting. Dictora, just the last two questions regarding the database. You said the database is Twitter. Yes. Only one, right? You didn't use any other database. And the program for analyzing the software that you analyze your data, what is the name of this?
So as I said, we're doing knowledge graph at the moment, and we've built two knowledge graphs, which is the FinKG and the ConKG. FinKG, which is it's related to all kind of fake news. ConKG, which is related to COVID-19. I have a couple of links that I can share with you after, which you can post also under the YouTube video that we're doing now, where people can actually check these softwares. It's an open source. and they can test it. They can look at what we've been working on. There is a description of the product as well, and our names is there as well. So if anyone would like to collaborate on such work and so on, but this is basically what we're working on. We can go technical, like there's a lot of technicalities about in this. Again, one of our team members definitely can provide with more details if needed.
Correct. Dr. Anoud, thank you so much. If you can provide us with your email so I can share it with the audience, or you can just, write it in the chat and I will share it to them.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ahmed, for the opportunity. And yes, please, if anyone is interested and even joining the team for research work and with helping us with this dilemma of fake news, please please send me an email. I'm more than happy to collaborate on research work, of course.
Thank you, Dr. Anoud, for your time and effort. It's really a very nice, and I really enjoy your webinar. Good luck with your research and the project. All the best, inshallah. It will be not the last time with ITAR. Inshallah, will be other series or other topics that you can talk about. Thank you so much, Dr. Inshallah, next week we'll have another guest speaker. Will be Professor Khalid Husseini from University of Portsmouth in United Kingdom. We'll talk about how to publish a research paper in high-ranked journals. Thank you so much. See you next week. Assalamu alaikum.